Alright, so sit down and buckle up. Cordon and I will do the rest. Calm down. Hold your complaints.
Right. At least we're not going to use it on anything. What about it? Oh, we lost it all. In Vegas.
I'm not very good company, I'm afraid. Got to.
Please. Call me Adrian.
Also, we left alone. They don't stand a chance, do they?
Itself, from itself, that will survive. Just like you preserving those great artworks. Our culture is our soul, and that's not dying tonight.
Come on. I contributed to this cover-up. Your Da Vinci, your Picasso, they're in. You're some nobody, you don't stand a chance.
It's not necessarily true. You ever hear of a writer called Jackson Curtis?
2012.
Even the chances are of an unknown writer who barely sold 500 copies making it aboard this plane.
For some reason, well, my son actually has been
Fate or nature.
continuously being bombarded by the 923s, so he decided to watch this, and now he's bailed on me, and so now I'm here hoping I can catch some fun little oddities. Of course there won't be, but I believe that what we're experiencing is somewhat holographic in nature, and we see things around us in reality because the script of the end of the world is written into our hearts. So we may notice things and we may see things, but I think TV is very representative of the version of us who is going to experience the end of the world. And so there's a character of us in all of these movies who represents us and maybe a little thing that we're going through. And so 2012, of course, is very epic. And one of my favorite scenes is, of course, the monk sitting up with the gong as the tidal wave comes over, as the birthing event happens. So there's a lot of sad family things which I find endearing. It's a good movie. I just find it endearing, like they just showed the dad of one of the, of the main character, and he's a jazz singer, and his black friend is the other jazz singer, and they have these moments where they talk to their family, and I think what's really sad to me is a lot of people in life don't realize part of getting connected with Jesus is just realizing that you should be in touch with your family like tomorrow is the end of the world. So anytime I get endeared in a movie and I am able to drop a little tear because I'm able to see through to the higher purpose of life and say, wow, that's wonderful and that's amazing, and of course we have a black president in the movie, so that's very pertinent and it's present. that's amazing. That's heartbreaking. That's, you know, the whole story, even though it's fantasy and it's not really there, it represents kind of what it's going to be like when the shit hits the fan. The shit will eventually hit the fan. I do like, however, that I was saying the other day that 923, strangely enough, I noticed on someone's video that 923 is the path on the tree of life in the Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic form of thinking, where it's a bunch of circles and it looks like a light bulb. And it's, you know, so, and I'm not an expert on that, so I don't know, but I mean, their idea is that you go from the ground at the bottom to spiritual enlightenment at the top, so this would be backwards, 9 to 3, so very grounded. I'm not sure what that means, but we are dealing with Satan and Lucifer, and Lucifer falling to earth, so I don't know if that means that 9 to 3 would be when that spirit becomes really grounded into earth, and like, you know, you're having really dark times in 2012, and I was even saying in my video last night, we're all kind of hoping for some resolution or some type of 923 for everything to resolve itself, and we can move forward one way or another. And so, I mean, one of my favorites was the prophecy that the Pope, the last Pope, will be the King, the 8th Pope, who is not yet will be. Well, I mean, it's pure fantasy, right? I mean, like, someone who's dead, Pope John Paul will come back to life. And yet, I mean, so much of life is fantasy and craziness that you just can't say. And by the way, I owe it to you, Angel White, for turning me on to J.K. Bugout. I've been enjoying his videos for the iPad Goat 2 and the fear of the nuclear possibilities that could be happening, because the reverse, of course, of 923 is 239. Plutonium 239. And that's amazing. That's brilliant. So I enjoyed that. But the one thing that I've been really pondering, because New York City seems to be quite a highlight, is this St. John's the Divine Cathedral. And all the new work since 97 has kind of led towards this image of us having a major disaster in New York. And so, I mean, I do enjoy the hurricanes and the names, and Jose and Maria, Joseph, Maria. But to me, that would be the Antichrist. Like, nothing comes in signs for Jesus. He's not riding in on signs. So, but the Antichrist would definitely be alluring people in with what it would be like to have this all transpire, because the Antichrist and the devil are nothing without God, and so everything in all his plans would have to be the inverse and fulfillment of his placement in the scheme, which is to pretend or attempt to overthrow God, which could never happen, and then be cast into earth, and then have that all transpire. But I mean, I believe personally that that's already transpired, and what we're experiencing now is our ability to perceive it. Right? We're just getting it. I mean, the world is really not very godlike, so it's not about anything godlike. It's about the end of the world. Everything is either evil, misguided, or biblical, and about the end of the world. So in 2012, I enjoy the graphics more than anything. I mean, I know that this is some type of thing that's going to happen. I'm coming home, Dorothy, he says. Wonderful. And that's precisely the state of existence for humanity. We're in Oz. We're pondering the state of our spiritual battle between God and the devil, and the playing field is very malleable, like it's like a fantasy almost. It's there's believable parts and there's unbelievable parts, and then we have this type of thing, which is pure metaphor, which sadly is where people live emotionally, and so they believe this stuff. Not so much like a religion, but more like it's so normal. It is the normality of everyone that when you look at these things, I mean, this is a person's interpretation. 2012.
Tried to find our old spot at Yellowstone. We went camping with the kids,
But it's dealing on many levels. It's the emotional level. It's the level between the protagonist, the hero, who is having family issues, and he's saved and redeemed. And so, I mean, life is mainly about redemption. And so that's a great thing. That's the thing we love, and so hopefully and the thing, Angel White, that I've loved about your videos is that it's they're about Jesus and about redemption. So bar none, like that's the important thing. Like, what are you going to do with your time and space while you're here for this brief moment? And if there's any value to 2012 or any of these Doom movies, is that they shock you into being a little more of a participant. Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you can be shocked more into being a participant, I don't feel like all of us are responsible to be taking the place of Jesus Christ, but we all could lean more in that direction. But I think the closer you get to presenting that to people and saying, well, you need to behave yourself, I need to behave myself, we all need to be looking out for each other more. Here's more clothing, here's more food. What are you lacking? What are your needs? The more we focus on that, the less the world hurts and the less the world suffers. And so, like I said, we don't need to be Christ, but I mean Christ-like for sure. And so these movies to me are like near-death experiences. They shock humanity into kind of having this moment. And so like 9/23 is very important because we want resolution. We want communion with God. We want happiness. We want understanding. Jesus is the Word, and so guaranteed when you really get solid with Jesus, you're going to have understanding. But partially, I would like to say, because I have been in touch with Jesus spiritually, is that understanding isn't like a textbook thing. It's contentment. To know that you are taken care of existentially, and that all that's required is that in your time of reckoning, when you are ready to meet Jesus for real, you will probably be put to the test and die, possibly, most likely, but you will be reborn as a citizen and family member of the higher existence because you gave your time and energy towards someone or something else. It's not the only way it will happen, but very likely that's the easiest way for you to attain a sliding through to that understanding. I mean, you can die a million years later in old age and maybe do that. Right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think, here's the thing, Angel, I think, I was saying it yesterday, I was like, 923 to me is about people are so fed up that they would love this to end. And ultimately, because I watched this weird video on the microchipping, and I was like, over my dead body. Hi, David. I'm Brian Murray. And I was like, well, if they're microchipping, like, that would be the perfect excuse for me to let them put a bullet in my head and no longer participate in this fantasy Dungeons and Dragons game that I've been involved in, which is terrifying and bewildering. But there's a point where, like, I mean, you realize Jesus gave up not only, like, in being him, basically everything, but in the end, he just kind of, like, gave up the extra everything to just say, I'm done here. And that's the scariest part of reality, because we all want some type of tombstone or some type of recognition for existence. So, I mean, I think what Jesus and those spiritual warriors that we were always clinging on to, or just trying to teach us as well, is that the life is really just a nothing, and the more you cling on to it, the more you suffer. And so I do love that, and I try to hold on to that. I'm not a very good preacher. I don't really have much to say on the subject to people. I mean, I feel like life is sometimes so obvious that I shouldn't have to remind people that it's such a gift and such a miracle and such a blessing to be here. And I still have my parents, and I love that. But I do find that in some point those things are all fantasy in a way. And like I even said yesterday, and this is a big thing. Like, Jesus was carrying the cross, and Mary came up to him and said, like, oh, my son. And he said, who are you, woman? And she said, well, I'm your mother. And he said, well, I have no mother. I have only my Father in heaven. And I love that, because it's really just a recognition that you're on a solo adventure, and you have to be balanced, and you have to be kind while you're learning what's going on. And everything you have, you owe to your Father in heaven. Like this rudimentary source that is not a man or a woman, really. I mean, we say Father because we're so used to naming everything man and woman, but God is beyond everything like that. It's so far beyond. I mean, God is the inventor of caring and hating and justice. But God is so wonderful and beautiful that in his nature here, he is justice and severity and authority and redemption and all these things that can't go wrong, really. If you're a being who's good and like can keep it together, then nothing can go wrong for you. And so that's what I find ironic about the New World Order. Let's like drain it right down to the bottom of the swamp. I'm not afraid of the New World Order because I have nothing to hide. I'm a good man. I'm not out feeding the poor, but I have helped people. But ultimately, I have nothing to hide. And so the New World Order is as maybe want to say, eat my shorts, because I don't have anything to hide. Not worried about it. I do think it does propose a problem for people who have things to hide. And so, those are people, because here's the thing. Is there privacy in heaven? Do you have a secret place you can go in heaven? No. You're united with the one and only Father Jesus Christ, and nothing you can do would be bad, because to be with Jesus Christ you could not want to be bad, and you would nothing to hide. And so I live my life like that every day, where, amen. And so, like, I try to live my life like that every day. You know, like, I am under the spotlight. I'm under the microscope. I have the mirror on me, the mirror of fate. And as they say, you're known. You will be known by the fruits of your labor. So, like I say, if you want to, and in the extreme, you can help locally. You can feed the poor, as Jesus would say. Where were you when I was hungry? Where were you when I was thirsty? Where were you when I was naked? Because I tell you, those things that you did not do for the least of my brother or sisters, you did not do for me. And so, that knowledge being powerful to me, I'm aware, but I'm not perfect. But I am wonderfully fascinated by movies about doom and gloom, because it helps us express what it's going to be like when we let go of reality. Because that's the hardest thing. Like, when I was young, I wanted a gravestone. I wanted to be a famous artist. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be known. Now I don't really think of it that way. I just don't. I don't care. I'm not burdened by those feelings anymore. They don't make me sad anymore. And so, doom and gloom should take a new shape. And if you can do that, you will indeed escape the complex of 2012s or 2017s or 923s or any of those things that seem to burden mankind, because life is too short. And if you can take care of each other and your family and your loved ones, then you'll be in good company. As was I tonight. I bid you well in peace, in the name of Jesus Christ. I bless you. Good night.